we are continuing our story. So we are now in page 294. What is at stake? In order for audience to become emotionally engaged in the story, you have to show them what is at stake, and it has to be big emotionally. You also need to let the audience know what is at stake early in the story and what is there to lose. How do you signify that something will be lost? When Scratchable sees the executioner, it becomes real for her. This is dramatized by her losing her voice. Later, when she discusses where the cat comes from, we see that what happened to the Sultan brats and what might happen to Scratchable. We now fear for her life. What do you want? Knowing what character wants tells us the audience where are we going. We should get to know what they want quickly. It may change over the course of the story when they learn that what they want is not the same of what they need. Knowing the character want is global that function as a focusing point for the story that help to unify it. The goals also give the story a direction. Each character in the story will have their own wants, some of which might conflict with a hero want. Complication and obstacle prevent the character from getting what they want, and these will build in intensity. If the hero overcomes a major obstacle too early in the story, then all other obstacles may seem insignificant. Obstacles come in many guises. The hero may overcome an initial physical obstacle only to face more difficultly emotional one. Obstacles are what make story interesting. Be innovative with them. There is an old Jewish proverb that states, "Be careful what you wish for, you may get it." Wishes often have a price. In the end, the hero doesn't always get what they want, but they get what they need. This is more important. Of course, this means wars. Some even need to get the story in motion. Some catalyst is needed to start the war. Bugs Bunny could only be pushed so far because he would retell it. Discover the Rosetta Stone. Character often discover information that can illuminate everything and thus change of the world. This information can turn empathy into patience and drive the character into action. How do I have to? Obligatory skin are skin that are created in the image of the audience while they watch the film. They are based on what the audience expect. We expect that eventually we will get to know the answer. Will the character get what they want? This expectation helps the story feel like it's going somewhere. It is common sense that you don't have a western without a showdown. If you are not going to fire the gun sometimes during the shot, don't put it in. As soon as Scratchable reaches the palace, we know that at some point there will be a confrontation between her and the Mad Sultan. We also know that as soon as the Fridge point out the forbidden door, that Scratchable and Dunzan have to go there. We cannot go back now. This is a moment where the hero has to face the fact that the change of success for the quest is totally hopeless. The hero has set things in motion that cannot be undone. Let him or her find something that they new hopes. The calm before storm. Before the climax in the film, it is a good idea to give the audience a chance to rest. It gives them time to think about what it all means and what it stakes. Let the character convey their feeling about what is to come. It is a good opportunity to mislead your audience and surprise them. Comic relief. Comedy has the power to relieve unbearable tension. Remember, tension has a fatigue factor. If you just keep the audience in intense tension too long, they might eventually saturate and turn out. Comic relief produces relief before the tension again ramp up. It also provides contrast that can make the tension feel all the greater. A related concept is catalyst. This is emotional relief and purging in the emotion with the pull of its tension. It is delivering the audience with the answering of narrative question. Crisis. The crisis is a moment of truth of the hero. Does he or she have the right stuff? The hero decides to risk all and go after the goal. This major decision leads to the climax of the story. The hero has to decide to go for it. The main climax needs to occur near at the end, not in the middle, because this is what everything has been leading up to. Cut the chase. Readability needs skin that explode into action. They provide a fierce release from the tension and suspense created in the story. Shadow with the shadow. Showdown with the shadow. This is a moment we all have been waiting for. It is a climatic battle with winner takes all. The ultimate happy trails. After the climate is over and the story is over, but we should be allowed to hang out for a while the winners to share their success. We should see what it means to them, what they have learned, and where they will go now. Aftermath also tell the audience what the journey was all about. The mystery are revealed. Epilogue. The epilogue is kind of like a PS, the story emotional closer. Some film describe where its character today. What happened if you move the structure around? The ideal story shaped like a wave. It will rise up until it cannot hold up anymore and comes crashing down. I overhear a new model of story structure combining Aristotle's plot curve, dramatic irony, and knowing that people love to see things blow up. In the director control, the flow of information of who gets to know what, when, where, how, and why. Each section should have different amount of information given to the audience. Rising curiosity, building suspense, rest, explode into action, answer. Dive into the story quickly. Follow this with rising curiosity sign. At this point, the audience doesn't know very much. Next, build suspense by letting the audience know enough to start to worry about the character. At the peak, the wave explodes into action. Finally, answer provide emotional and closure, and the audience get to understand what is it all about. If you don't have a main question or it all integrated too late, then the story will seem to going nowhere. The audience won't know where they are going. Don't count on pretty skin to carry the film. One way to solve the late introduction in the main question is through the introduction of subplot with an own question needing an answer. This can lead to the main question. What happened if the story has the wrong shape? And it can be that bad, or can it? Let's see what can go wrong with the overall shape even in a graded movie. When it's gonna start? Disney Jungle Book start off too slow. We don't know what the main character Mowgli want until he say he want to stay in the jungle with Baloo. But that is not until in the middle of the film. Start with a bang. The Gemma Spoon movie address the slow start by starting with a bang. They open with a big action sequence that launch us right the heart of the action. Romancing the Stone, Star Wars, and Matrix to do all this. Someday the surf is flat. The remainder of the day suffer from the lack of climate, even though there is tension for me. It never felt like it went anywhere. The boy never goes after the girl. Some movie, it hope there's a sequel coming. Some movies seem like they ran off out film. It filmed like they got pushed off a cliff while leaving many questions unanswered. I felt that no contrary of Old Man Zodiac Match Point and the conclusion of the Sopranos suffered this fate. Two happy endings. Disney used to be known as the Happy Ever After brand. Ratatouille had two happy endings and felt like in the end of the middle because the narrative questions were answered. They had to start it up again, bringing in a new question. Sometimes there are many loose ends and that need closer. The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King felt like it had about a 5 or 6 ending. Is it over yet? Is it over yet? Point to remember. Study your story in the script and storyboard stage before you shoot. Chart out your story as a map marker. A director has to see a forest and tree. Study your story with every kind of analysis, the hero journey and the plot curve for the big picture. Character emotion and plot function in the middle level. The narration and narrative question for the macro level. Watch the feature king, starting out the evening and the growing day for their journey, hero's journey. Pay attention to the mentor in Star Wars and the Karate Kid. Aiming for the heart. This is the last structure of the event of the story. I am here, emotional response. Congratulations, you have come this far. You have accomplished your quest. We have arrived at our goal that is providing the audience with emotionally satisfying experience. Once the audience decide what something means, they automatically feel emotional. That is amazing aspect of how our minds work. They doesn't even have to think about it, meaning evoke emotion. Do we really need to identify with the hero? What does it actually mean to identify with the hero? What are we identifying with? How can we identify with someone who looks totally different than us. They may speak, dress, move, or act differently. They may even be younger or older, or even the opposite sex from us. There are different types of identification. The first kind of identifying that goes on the movie is perceptual. We see things and identify what they are, and then we identify what they mean. With the character on screen, this goes a step further. We identify if we like to them. Do we think they are good or bad? Are they like me or not like me? Whatever do we use to judge that? The audience journey. Just as we learn that the writer goes on his or her own hero's journey, I believe that audience does as well. What kind of journey it is? It is very strange paradox. This is about someone else. Yet somehow I am watching me. The character somehow stand in for the audience. But which character? It is the hero. We identify what happened when he or she is not in the crane. What happened if we watch a villain creating a plan to dispose of the hero? Why do we keep watching and do we stop identifying? I have already suggested that we watch movies and narrated them to ourselves. What are we doing when we do this? We are identifying things, but we do much more. We seek to understand and make sense of things. Then we want to know if our guesses are correct. When it comes to the character, if we know more than they do, we wish to direct them, don't go in the basement, look out behind you, go up to her. When a story is working, the audience loses themselves in it. Either it's suggesting that we identify with the story. I believe we are identifying with the total emotion arc of the story. Emotion are what we share with the character and their desire and fear. We identify with the questioning hero of underdog because we often feel like the underdog. The audience journey is a character where we transfer the dangerous underworld of our emotion. Emotion must be believable to the circumstances that the character find themselves in. As director, we need to show them the emotional trigger that causes a character to react. For example, that event must occur to allow coward eyes to transform into courage. Why do the character do what they do? Character motivation is the force that drives story, that the glue that hold them together. Motivated character can be really inspirational for us. What makes us root for the hero and his other villains? When we root to the hero and boo to the villain, we are deeply lost in the story. What is that we are so fired up about? Heroes are usually the one who learn and change the most during a story. We identify where the struggle includes the courage to patch fear, make sacrifice, and fight for what they believe in. Heroes must find out who they are and face up to this truth. They must become capable of love yet able to let go. Movie heroes must be able to show their feelings or their action. We like hero because of these ideal qualities. Hero that doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, their imperfection can make them all more lovable. How does someone become a villain? Are they born bad? I can see how villain wanted. Do you hurt people and enjoy it? Do you have special skill to make people feel bad? Do you have selfish fantasy or conquering the world? Have you accomplished a checklist of 7 deadly sins? Are you much expert at lying and cheating? Some resume and qualification. Must be evil banned. Villain can take many disguises from the classic twirling mustache type of an informal cheat, monster, criminal, corporation, family member, or bacteria. What is the job description of the villain? Basically, their job is to create conflict by making life impossible for the heroes to those who they love. Conflict comes in all sorts of shape and size. War is extremely conflict. But you better make it personal to the character. What are the character fighting for? Is it worth the sacrifice? Losses and gain drive many story conflict like a right to reach story. Mistake can lead to conflict. Love generates conflict as well through jealousy, mistrust, and arguing over raising children. Love can even turn into a poisoned, murderous passion. Heroes take responsibility for their action. Heroes are not passive. Your story must bring them to emotional place where they have to decide and then take action. Heroes are heroic because they change and grow. Superman may be the exception. In contrast, villains are tragic because they doesn't change. Fear, flaw, want, and need. To develop fully character, we need to understand what makes them tick. What is their true motivation? Why do they really do what they do? What do they really need? We need to know their fear, flaw, want, and need. Do they deal with their fear with anger, humor, cowardice? Do they face their desire or run away from them? They better face them head on or you don't have an active hero. Character flaws provide a way to show the change the hero undergo. What are the limitations, vice, opposition, inhibition, and additions? In other words, what inner demon must they overcome before they can deal with their external foes? One way to develop characters who are intentionally consists to decide what rules govern their behavior, arrange the rules and hierarchy whenever certain rules are operation most of the time. But under stress, the character can act differently. Bugs Bunny, for instance, usually has a life attitude. But if he pushes too far, watch out. It would recommend taking a psychology class to understand what makes people tick. This is the heart of the storytelling. We are now going to look at the 4 genres about specific emotions. Love story, tales of horror, comedies, and crime story. Love story. What keeps love apart? Imagine a love story where 2 lovers fall in love at first sight and get together. I bet you are waiting for something to happen. What makes love story interesting is the obstacle that keep the love apart. In the beginning, it's better to have hate at first sight. That gives the story somewhere to go. The romantic case is the interesting part. The obstacles are what can make each love story unique. Parental objections are the divine obstacle of Romeo and Juliet. Green card use immigration as the obstacle in dumb love. Our lovable monster Goo has to climb a volcano to get to California. Scratch Rebel must know this story for the sun and expose herself to danger for their love to come to pass. Sometimes an obstacle can be interpreted such a fear of comet and not wanting to get hurt again. As human beings, it is easy to develop behavior to influence what are really sensitive. A love scene is so difficult because being in the animate, it stops for the forward progress of the story. Interrupt the skin before they lose the audience. It's also difficult to stand sweetly touching moment. Cut it a show, joke in before it gets too sappy. It's classical Hollywood boys meets girl formula. Inflation run high. It is rush of being loved that counts in the climbs. Love is blind. Basically, it is caused by an overlaying of a love object because the love project or his ideal into the person he or she loves. The Sultan sees the beauty and intellect of Scratch Rebel and so her storytelling can fall for her. In stage 2, boy loves girl. Basically, this common occurs when the love object no longer matches the ideal that this project upon him or her. Now he or she is underdeveloped. Scratchable has a mind of her own and betrays the Sultan's trust. He loves his interest in her and is ready to kill her for his other brides. In stage 3, boy gets a girl back. Now if the party involved are mature enough to real love can occur, this involves accepting the other true nature even though it doesn't match the fantasy. What will the Sultan do now that he has learned that Scratchable has betrayed him? Why are so many movies about love? Love transforms people. Love is source of great leisure in people's life, but it can also be the source of unbearable pain. We want to see what do one thing go wrong. We want a model to live by. So, what can go wrong with love? It can easily become unbalanced and turn into an unequal relationship in the form of dominance and submission. The essence of extracurricular affair create love triangles that are obstacles to love that overmirror our dramatical possibilities. Men and women think differently, play with the implication of their how it affects relationship. Look for way to break clinch. Even if your story is not about love, you can still utilize love as a subplot to evenly any story. What is a story about horror? All stories have fear factor. They are often set in locations that active our basic childhood fear. It was a dark and stormy night for a reason. Most children and some adults fear being alone in the dark. Good storytellers remember how scary it is being a child. I imagine the best storytellers are still in touch with the irrational fear of childhood and that is why they are good at it. Horror films focus on the exploit of monster intent to cause harm. They threaten us and exploit us to our vulnerability and fear of an unknown. Monsters are often scariest in the first place of act, when we know the least about them and we still don't know what they can really do. Steven Spielberg plays, directed by Tobe Hooper, create an incredible feeling of uncanniness in the beginning of the film. Act 3 felt like a letdown when they explain away all the horror had skeleton attacking. Horror films are spatial caves wherever all the narrative question doesn't need to be answered. The not knowing contributed to their horrific effect. We need to see what happened to our question heroes, not uncover a mystery of the universe. Noel Corral in the film Emotional and Genre suggests that horror breaches the normal distinction between inside and outside. Think about it. For most people, if something punctures your skin and blood comes out of it, it is pretty horrible. The inside is supposed to stay inside. There is a quality of disguise that repels us. Monsters cross the boundary. Whenever monsters rip limbs apart as acts internally like a virus, a boundary has been breached, and when the escape routes have been blocked, it is all the more terrifying. What can be more terrifying than if the monster is already inside us? I am sure the surprise guys of the dinner scene like Alien make a few people jump. Another boundary that the hero feels across the twilight are between life and death. I don't know what is worse, being a vampire that lives forever, feeding on its mortal victim, or a zombie that lives with but isn't alive. Frankenstein was created from that body part, sewed back together and brought back to life. Similarly, the mummy was also dead for a long time before coming back for a wrong. Things out of control can be used comedically or for horror. Things that aren't supposed to be alive but act that way and are also out of control or doubly frightening, such as the doll from the film Chucky. We all know the computers are out to get us, or as demonstrating the case of Fall 2001. The question is, what is your dream out of console? Answer the nightmare of all safe movie series. Of the ability of mental start fires can be cinematically spectacular, like when it was used in Firestarter and Carrie. Something about being watched without your knowing is unfair when you discover it. Most Stalker films capitalize on this theme. Good horror utilize can't-travel secret, the storytelling is story delaying. Make your audience wait for the scare. Horror should develop slowly. If you show the monster right away, then where do they go? Where do you go? In Alien, we watch the alien grow from a seed pod to a baby and finally its most horrifying form as a teenager. Along with the character, we had to learn about deadly things like was each step on the way. The alien was probably on screen less than 5% of the film, but it was one of the most terrifying monsters in horror movie history. Provide the audience with fake stare that reveal it to be something innocent like a cat, and then while they are still feeling relief and their guard is down, provide the real scare. The structure with comedy as well. Find a new fear to utilize. You have got a new horror movie. Unknown Stalker, Voodoo, Superstition, Fairy Tale, Neem, Gnomes, Troll, and Greek Code, Demonic Possession, Claustrophobia, Spider, and Snake. But not on a plane or some ideas filmmakers have used to create countless horror movies. To learn more about how to construct a horror movie, watch the Scream movie story. The movie playfully examines the skin while at the same time provide some chills of their own. But the Scream series never mention why it's usually a group of attractive teenagers that are subject of a horror movie. One reason could be that 14-year-old boys are a prime demographically target audience. However, on a deeper level, maybe the monster represents something the audience themselves are going through. Monster movies are metaphor for the change of the body goes to the adolescent sexuality. The full moon comes out and the both boys start in hair transformation. Likewise, the full moon comes out and the vampire girl experience plot. It will leave the detail out to your imagination. The rubber band theory of comedy aiming for the backseat of the heart. A mentally Python would say, and now, here's something completely different. A comedy like a winding up a big spring. You have to tighten up and tighten, building up expectancy, and then you make them. Your character and audience wait some more until nothing. All the effort was for nothing. Then boom! Time is confessed and expense for the comedic effect. The things you are winding up, the emotion, the character, the frustration, annoyance, anger, expectation, and the high hopes. Then, the rubber band comes undone. The rational way of dealing with something that doesn't work is to try a different solution until you find one that does. The comedic way of dealing with something that doesn't work fits the description of insanity. Whenever if something doesn't work, you keep doing the same thing, only harder. It is even more comedic if when something doesn't work, you take it personally and put more and more effort into doing exactly the same thing until it explodes in your face. While dramatic change must be driven with flexible, comedy character must be blindly obsessed by their goal. Like in It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World will be a lure of buried treasure, turns ordinary people into greedy maniacs. The traditional approach to comedy that propose must fall. In those who think they are better than the rest of us are the best target for slippery bananas. The dinner game and the proposed dinner sought a person to make a fool of the table to not the fool in trying to have in such popular that he inevitably get revenge by making things terrible for his upper crust house. Misunderstanding in the core of tragedy and comedy. In the Inspector General, a beggar is accidentally mistaken for the Inspector General of the town and streetly royalty. He must hide his old identity for those who knew him, and the common beggar began pretend to know what is he doing as the inspector, which is fun to watch. In Dumb Love, Go mistakenly think Clover is dead, just as Romeo thinks the Juliet is dead. One story ends tragically, while the other upbeat. Dumb Love came about when I asked the question, what would happen if Romeo and Juliet ending happy? Confusion also exists when someone dressed like the opposite sex. From some like It Hot or Tushy or the TV show Bodies Booties, cross-dressing in a great sort of dramatic irony. Wikipedia lists over 50 films in their article on cross-dressing in film. Silent film can Scotty Chapchin and Stanley both work at clothes in their film. Women also take part in dressing up like a man, like in Shakespeare in Love. And even the cartoon character Bugs Bunny has been known to put a dress on from time to time. In miscommunication, there is a gap between what is expected and what actual the result. The result are coming, the result oncoming, the result. Submarine gets stuck and sunburn. This one even led to escalating rumor that drive on the townspeople to hysteria when they mistakenly believe that our full-scale Russian invasion and take their little town. Sometimes in situation itself, that is the sort of the comedy of what did you do during the war, Daddy. We see a typical war skin and America soldiers sneaking about on the town. They enter God, suddenly a weasel ball and a shocker ball land on their shoulder buyout. After some arguing, the Italian will agree to surrender, but only after their festival. The festival leads to drunken rivalry. After when the Americans learn that air surveillance is on their way, they have to stage a pony battle to convince headquarters everything is under control. That is until the German army arrive. The situation is funny in itself, and the more the character tries to make things work, the worse it gets. In suspense, we withhold information from the audience and our character. We may foreshadow some treat as the director we are in control of the flow of information. In comedy, we let the audience in on the joke, but now the character, an important part of the comedy, is allowing the audience to feel superior. Even clowns know the value of staging a gag clearly. Only they describe visual confession as spaghetti, you have to let the audience in a joke for them to get it. Telegraph your intention to your audience, and comedy rules are made to be broken. Nonsense is not random affair, it can only exist in relevant rules. This is one case where you can even cross the threshold of awareness without destroying the story. A comic character can step out of the story and speak directly to the camera. This is known as breaking the fourth wall of its use frequently in the theater. Comedy is close to pain but doesn't cross the line. If it is feel like it hurt, it is not funny. Humor feeds us with the physical pain. If only for a moment, comedy reveals ourselves we are as we really are. Even if you choose not to see or hear it, if we laugh, then we have probably recognized the truth. Don't forget toppers. When you throw it over, it's time to laugh again. Why did the mathematically cross the movie street? Movie can fulfill our powerful sense of justice. That goosebump is rewarded for evil punishment. The punishment that wish, Legally Pond, Dirty Harry, V for Valentine, and Robin Hood are great examples of justice that goes beyond the Letter of the law. It is very important that your audience must be shown why the villain should be punished. What were their crimes? Do you choose to show the crime or just the aftermath? On the surface, cop and criminals show involving action with the gunplay. I think people want to see crimes committed without having to deal with the consequences. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to get rich quickly and get away with things? But just as strongly, they also want justice as the crime to be punished. With crime story, they can have both in both ways. Your audience want to witness crime and punishment. The great thing about movies is that we can identify with the hero doing heroic stuff, but also unconsciously identify with bad guy. Why? Villains have all the fun. They get to do things what they are not allowed to do. We are guilty of wanting to see them get away with it, but we also get satisfaction of seeing they get away what they deserve. Mankind is a flawed species, prone to all kind of sin, but we also are capable of redemption, transformation, truth, horror, and grief. Let's return to the place and see if it's too late. Your Majesty, my sister wants you to have this. The Sultan took the package. What is it? When she reads your diary, she fell in love with you and finished the story for you. The Sultan looked at the diary, smoke rise, and a box smoke rise the dragon. The crowd gasps. Have you not been warned? Yet you dare to disrupt my slumber. If you continue to fight, the crowd landed their weapon. I will try you all. Behind the crowd comes the jerk. He looks up and sees Gu with a megaphone in the hot air balloon that looked like a dragon. The jerk climbs on the wonder rope, catches on the dragon. He attacks Gu. Gu defends himself. The jerk slices off the rope.